What is up, RotoGrinders? We got another edition of FanDuel Friday, but our first FanDuel Friday for the NBA season. I am your host, TJ Zwarych, TJ_Zwarych5 on all the socials, and I am joined today with my good friend Drizzy26, Andre Alford. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing pretty good. Just hanging in there. Tired as all hell. But ready to break down another, FanDuel Friday. I'm glad, we get to talk about some basketball, some hoops. My favorite sport, my first love. So yeah, let's just break it down and give some people some good plays.
My first love as well. I'm with you there. My first five-figure win was NBA. First six-figure was NFL, but first five-figure was NBA. And we're gonna sort of do it differently for NBA FanDuel Friday than we typically do for these other shows because it's a totally different beast. The NBA is. We can't do this show late in the day because that'd be interfering with Grinders Live. It'd be interfering with crunch time. But we're here recording the night before, or sometimes we're going to be doing this Friday morning, and the news isn't always going to be relevant. We can't talk you through our favorite plays at each position, what prices we're looking to exploit, because we don't know yet. And so this is going to be a different style of show. We're going to talk a lot of what ifs. We're going to talk a lot of general strategy, what we're going to do with our process. And then the other addition, and this will be the case for the FanDuel Friday show throughout the weekend as well, but this is going to be a new addition, is Dre and I are going to be available throughout the day, throughout the weekend to answer in the comments on this article. So you tag us in the comments, you have a question, whether it's about something we talked about or just a general play on a Friday on FanDuel, and we got you. So shout out to our sponsor, FanDuel. Make sure you hit the like button if you're watching this, but tag us in the comments with your questions, with your comments, and we'll talk strategy with you on Fridays. Sometimes it'll be both of us, sometimes it'll just be one of us, but we're going to be there in the comment section breaking it all down with you. And so the way I think that we're going to start this show and start basically all of our FanDuel Fridays is basically take back the window a little bit and open the door, show people our process, break down how we start our days for NBA, how we start our research, what we look for, and then talk some specific strategy to the slate, as well as some strategy that we kind of look to capitalize on in tournaments as well. So, Dre, my first question I want to ask you is, it's a Friday morning, you're playing on FanDuel. How do you start? What tabs do you have open as you're building your lineups?
I literally like to first get an idea of like who's in and who's out. As you see, we have the injury report up there, so that's typically what I would like to go through first, so I have an idea of knowing who I can target, like get kind of fresh idea of what players I feel are going to be popular and get a pulse for the state of how it's going to go. And then from there, I just go over to obviously our lineup HQ or just even the FanDuel app itself and just go through each position, look at the pricing of each players. I think that's very, very important because obviously you want to make sure you get at least 5x the salary, or 6x, some people say, but 5 to 6x is definitely fine
We're
in
in
my
the day and
opinion.
age that I think it has to be like at least seven.
Six. Yeah, probably. You're right at this point with the way the pace of play is. So, um, I just try to see like how they're looking and are they worth their price compared to other players in their position, and if not, how can I use them to get different? So, I typically just go through that at first, and then from there, just maybe try to build a dummy lineup just to get my mind going and on it and figure out, okay, this is what I like for the day mainly, and then from there, I will pivot off until I figure out what I like. That's just like me making one lineup, which is honestly like my first five-figure win was actually due to NBA. So I won't forget that day. So it's just like something I try to just continue to win, continue to do that process over and over again. But if I'm multi-entering, I do kind of almost in the same way as well, but on a larger scale with the computer. What about
Exactly.
yourself?
That's the biggest error I've made in NBA early on in the year is I just genuinely kind of forgot how much my process differs in this sport in comparison to the others. In baseball, I can start research 15 minutes before lock and build a great team that has a chance to win. In NFL, it's a throughout the week process. I don't really have to research much on Sunday morning because I've taken in so much throughout the week what players are working with the first team, what players are out, who's practicing, who's not, stuff like that. NHL, you can almost make your lineup first thing in the morning and then just double check your lines before lock, and that's it. NBA, it's a full process, not only the full day up until lock, but after lock as well. And so to start, I always have my first tab open with Lineup HQ on whatever site I more typically play on, usually FanDuel for me. And obviously, that's where we're going to focus today for the FanDuel Friday show as well. And so I start my Lineup HQ, FanDuel, NBA open. I'll get the injury report up like this. I'll always look at meansies, core plays. And then depending on the size of the slate, I don't mind looking at the first look up there as well, because for me, that just kind of allows me to look, okay, what's the highest totals? What are the games I want to be looking most at? What teams have the highest pace of play? That type of thing. And so that's kind of how I like to start my day, get a general overview of the injury report so that throughout the day, I can kind of think, okay, if this guy gets ruled out, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get overweight on this person today. And we can see who gets the extra usage, who gets the extra playing time here in the injury report, what if tool that we have up. And then when we know who is up as well, I usually don't spend too much time unless it's a smaller slate and we're not going to get this news until after lock. I usually don't spend too much time on Court IQ early in the day. Court IQ is a great free tool here on RotoGrinders that I'll pull up here right now that you can see based on somebody being on, somebody being off, or a certain amount of time. I guess the tab's not wanting to open up for me here, but based on a certain amount of time, the FanDuel point per minute increases for players. The usage increases, the assist rates, all of this kind of thing. And so that would be the first thing I would do. First adjustment I would make later in the day, but that's not something I would typically go heavy on later in the earlier on in the day when we don't know all the news yet. For those who haven't checked out the Court IQ tool before, I'm just running a general query of what it looked like last season, the usage rate for Golden State last season. You can sort by usage rate, you can sort by fantasy point per minute, get an adjustment based on there. If you want a specific player on or off based on injury, you can add that here as well. So it's a great tool, but I typically wait to use that one until later on in the day. But for this slate specifically, we now know how our process starts. We know how we're going to adjust it later on in the day. We got a pretty big one. We got hold on, what is it? I already counted and then I forgot. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 gamer. 11 gamer. The biggest we've seen this year is 12. This one's 11. It's basically a full slate. Almost every game has a similar total in this one. We don't have any big ones that stand out significantly more than the other ones. We have, I believe, 9 of these games are between 9 of them are between 220 and 230 totals. So all 9 of the 11 are within 10 points of each other. How does your process differ on a 11 game slate in comparison to, say, Thursdays, which is a 4-gamer? And how are you looking to specifically capitalize on that this Friday on FanDuel? Do any games in particular stand out?
Yeah, sorry, just a little bit distracted. Julio Jones just scored a touchdown, needed that. But I for a slate like this size, like ownership sometimes matters on the big name players, but not really because I look to find the spots where I can get different. So I'm gonna be attacking those and more so attacking games. Like, one thing I've noticed about myself when I've had a lot of success is being on the right game stack. Most people don't think that way. Most people don't play that way, but being on a game stack that I love a lot, I try to I pretty much just try to go with it as much as I possibly can and get overweight to the field opponent. So like if I find a player that I really, really, really like, um, I would typically just go and try to target. Like on today's slate, we have Damian Lillard out. Like some guys you have to just also think about, is there any way that you cannot not play them and where you can afford to fade them? Like Damian Lillard, he's gonna be out for what, about 2 weeks if I'm correct. We
Yeah.
got Brandon Ingram also out for the next 3 games. From what we were seeing here too as well. So that's all that stuff plays a major big factor. So like Anthony Simons, he has probably one of the best matchups on the board. To me, at his price of 7,400 going against Houston, that's someone I think that you have to consider. Like, hey, is he a lock or not? Like, we saw the uses he had gotten last year. Um, Pretty much when with Lillard off the court, him being pretty much the leading this team. And it was crazy, and the pace of Houston that they've been playing at has been pretty fast. So some guys like that is what I want to see the matchup with and attack it if possible. So Anthony Simons would be someone I would consider a lot of. I think the Pelican news is is kind of important. Just from a standpoint of we want to know like is Zion going to be ready? Good to go against Phoenix. I think Zion's a freak of nature. He's going to have a good matchup regardless. And this price also point of 8,100 will be cheap and it's going to be low owned. People are going to be looking to
Cam
find other plays.
Johnson is not staying in front of Zion Williamson. And
No,
as great of a defender as Mikal Bridges is, he is not suited for
he's
somebody like that. So I think it would be a big day for Zion if he happens to play, and it would be um, a very interesting tournament play. But if he doesn't, just like you said, like we got to monitor the situation already with Ingram out. Um, all of these New Orleans guys would look somewhat interesting in this situation if both of them are out because we got CJ McCollum is questionable with a hand injury as well. Jose
yeah.
Alvarado is questionable in this one as well. Like if we get McCollum out and Alvarado in, that's another player that you got to kind of look at a potential lock button for. If both of those guys are out, because Alvarado's all the way down at 4K, if both of those guys are out, Devontae Graham is 3.9K. Just with
Mhm.
Zion and Ingram out last game, he ended up with 27 minutes and almost 20 fantasy points. So if you get Alvarado and McCollum missing time, like he'd be looking at, if it's both of them, he'd be looking at like 38 minutes in this game, and he's somebody that just chucks. So New Orleans is definitely the most interesting spot to monitor throughout the day. We will
What I was gonna say real quick, like I just want to also bring up the one thing that I don't think we mentioned is about the injury report. It has like pretty much a if and out, like if then and what. That's a great tool with it too. As we talking about and talking through it, but this is a tool that also shows that a lot here on it too. With the like you said, the Matisse McCollum, Jose Alvarado. What makes them also a great play too as well. That also gets updated throughout the day on the side too. So just wanted to point that out real quick.
absolutely, and um, it's sorted in terms of impact rating as well, so how big of an injury it is. And so there's some things like Darius Garland, who's been out for a while, that we don't have to monitor too heavily because we kind of know how to handle that at this point. Terry Rozier, doubtful. LaMelo Ball is going to be out again. Dennis Smith Jr. at 6,800. As much as it pains me to play him at that price, like I kind of feel like I've been wrong for fading him because he's been absolutely crushing it and he's absolutely viable there as well on this one. So the New Orleans one, the reason why it's the biggest one we're monitoring is it could be new based on the amount of new names that are on the report. Zion and Ingram was last game too, but Alvarado and McCollum are brand new. And so there's new faces, but just also there are so many of them. So the ones like the Lakers that we have to monitor, I'm not very worried about Anthony Davis. I think this is kind of a fake cue and he's going to play. But if he doesn't, we don't really have to spend that much time talking
Oh,
about it because obviously
hold on.
what
You
happened in the
think it's
football
a
game.
no, no, not in the football game. Anthony Davis is never a fake Q. Mr.
That's
Glass is
true.
really
That's
Mr.
true. With
Glass.
just like the Lakers we've seen though, over the past 2 years, in times that like LeBron and Davis have full intent of playing, they just spend 3 weeks in a row listed as questionable, that type of thing.
Mhm.
My read the day before is that Anthony Davis is going to go, but even so, even if he doesn't, yeah, if AD is out, you just simply play LeBron James. We kind of know how this works at this point. Um, and then it opens up potential other big men in the lineup. Like, I mean, even who do these guys got there? Like, is it going to open up Damian Jones? Like, I don't really know if we're going to want to who we're going to want to play on that yet, but the projections will kind of dictate that one for us. So outside of New Orleans, outside of Anthony Simons and some of these other ones that we've talked about, where you can obviously you look at the in out if then what happens here. The other one I think is important to monitor is Michael Porter Jr., Contavious Caldwell Pope on the Nuggets, and it would make Bruce Brown very interesting, who has been crushing it with extended time in over there. But what I kind of want to know specifically is what would your game stacks look like on an 11 game slate in comparison to a 4, 5, 6 game slate? On a smaller slate, are you more likely to make your game stacks 4 players, 3 players? Whereas on these 11 game slates, are you more likely to look at multiple game stacks of 2 versus 1, 2 versus 2, and getting exposure to multiple games, especially when they're all so closely totaled like this one? Or are you still looking to just go heavily overweight 5, 6 players from one game in one lineup? And if so, what game is the one that you're looking to take advantage of today?
Well, you the definitely like it's a little bit of both, a combination. Especially if I'm multi-entering, I would definitely try to make some 2v1s, 2v2s. Sometimes like and if I'm hand building, if I really love a game, um, like I'll get some 3v2s, but those are gonna be more so like in the flow of the game, and if it's just naturally happens when it comes to something like that. But yeah, looking at this now, like all these games, they're not all these games are not really that. Well, some obviously not all the games are going to be appealing, but that Houston Portland game, I think I like a lot. Um, this one, the simple fact that we know Dame is already going to be out. We got questionable news when it comes to Porter, so that gives more time for Jalen Green. We saw Tate come back here and play a good amount of minutes. Um, right? How many minutes Tate played? Tate played 20 minutes, which wasn't that bad. So, but you got guys like Smith, who I think is playing well. Sengun also will be back in the lineup too. Nurkic will be able to get more uses as well. So, that's the game, a late night hammer type of game I would love to get to. Giannis, obviously, his price point where he is might make him the best player on the slate. So someone that I might want to look at, especially going against New York. Um, and New York's not nothing to sleep on either. But um, Atlanta, Detroit. I like some of the guys from that game. Pretty much a one-sided game. It's gonna be, but it's gonna be a lot of like bits and pieces I'm seeing here. Um, like Indiana, Washington. Like game wise, Indiana, Washington, Houston, Portland, potentially New Orleans, Phoenix, depending on who Zion's in. Um, And honestly, I like I kind of want to say Utah. Well, I want to say Utah, Denver, and Chicago, San Antonio. More so because we know who the value is on those teams and where they're going, um, and how they're been. And they've both been playing pretty good to start off the season, even though they end up losing the games, except for Utah, which they just find a way to keep winning. So I just try to base it upon that and go about it that way and get engage the and then like gauge the industry and the field about how much those guys from those specific teams that I just mentioned are going to be looked at and targeted. You know, price matters. I understand that, but also at the same time, it kind of doesn't because I just want the guy that I know is in a position to take advantage against a defense and put up the most points. That's what matters the most. Um, yeah, I understand point per dollar does matter, especially in a sport like basketball. But if he can go up and have but I'm also aiming for ceiling a lot. Um, so if he can have a ceiling game, then I'll be happy with some of these guys that could do that in their matchup.
I agree. And typically in a game stack situation, how I like to look at things, if I'm comfortable playing 2 players on a team without running it back. Anytime I get above 2, I want to always make sure I have a run back. Sometimes with 2, I like having a run back if it's a good game situation. But anytime I get over 2, I'm looking to have a game stack. To me, the only one on the slate in the late night hammer position that looks like a full game stack, maybe a 3-2, a 2-2 scenario for me today would be this Houston and Portland game, just because this could be a game with absolutely zero defense being played, fast pace. If you happen to catch an overtime, that's how you win a tournament. And so Houston and Portland would be the one I'd only be looking to, I think, for kind of like a full game stack. But like you mentioned, there are just so many pieces because this is an 11-game slate of other games to get kind of skinny stacks of, something like Dennis Smith Jr. and Paolo Banchero, Trae Young or DeJounte Murray with Cade Cunningham, Harden or Embiid with Siakam. However you want to do it, you can pick one from any game. You can go Halliburton and Beal or Porzingis. Porzingis is severely underpriced and will likely be talked about as a core play type thing tomorrow. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. It's always good on a big slate to get pieces of different one, but some type of game stack in there is kind of always a good idea for tournaments as well. Reminder, hit us up in the comments of this video, ask questions, make sure you tag us, and we'll get back to you, help us out, help you out in your tournaments, maybe even drop some core plays for tournaments in there if we can get enough likes on this video, things like that. So make sure you hit the like button. You can talk to Dre and I in the comments. You can also hit us up on Twitter, Drizzy26_DFS, TJ_Zwarych 5. Dre, you got anything else before we get out of here?
Well, also more so, when it comes to this, also, we want you guys to really be more interactive with us. So we're also going to be giving away a free week of RG Premium. If you can just pretty much guess who is going to be the top scorer on the slate. And for the tiebreaker, just put the amount of fantasy points. Put that in the comments there. And we'll give away a free week of RG Premium. We'll do that for you guys this week. We're gonna have something different every single week, so I think that's a good way to start off for us. So who you think on the state's gonna put up the most fantasy points, and what are they gonna put up? And leave that in the comments, and we will definitely get back to you and go from there. Real quick, what are some of what are your top 3 plays, honestly, that you like tonight, or like for tomorrow so far, from just a first look perspective?
So that's going to be, to know for sure, I'm going to have to wait until we get the projections uploaded into Lineup HQ and I can take a peek at that. But in the meantime, until we get a kind of firm look at numbers, I can kind of guarantee that the Pelicans and the Portland Trailblazers are going to be mainstays, heavy portions of my lineups. Anthony Simons, Josh Hart. For the Pelicans, it's totally going to depend on how many guys we get out. If McCollum is out and Alvarado is in, Alvarado is going to be my favorite play on the entire slate. If both him and McCollum are out, I think Devontae Graham warrants lock button consideration. And so for me, it's really going to depend on not only the projections, but some of these if-thens we're going to get throughout the day tomorrow. And so make sure you stay tuned to the comments. I'll be dropping some of my favorite tournament plays, as will Dre. And like he said, guess who you think will be the highest scorer on the slate for a chance to win 1 week free of RG Premium. And even if you're already a premium member, you can still win. That just gets tagged onto your account and some money gets taken off. It's still free. So make sure you get involved there. Hit the like button, comment who you're going to guess. And if you're one of the people who is interacting with us every Friday in the chat, asking questions, being friendly in the comments, not trolling, then we're going to be picking some random people to give away some RG swag, some free weeks, things like that throughout these Fridays. So make sure you come hang out with us on a Friday and talk some basketball. You'll also be able to find the NFL FanDuel Friday show coming later Friday afternoon as well. So make sure you stay tuned for that. That'll do it for this edition of the NBA FanDuel Friday show. Talk to you guys later in the comment section. Peace.